The following program is brought to you in part by the film Backdoor Channel's The Price of Peace.
Welcome to another Leon Charney Report. We have a really eclectic and exciting show tonight.
I used to be a general in the IDF, and then the deputy of the National Security Advisor. And now I'm dealing with several think tanks about the right policy towards the Palestinians and general diplomacy in the area. And last year when I was interviewed here, we were in the middle of the last operation with Gaza. And as you remember, I don't know, but when I left this place, a rocket was hitting Tel Aviv. And we needed to run and to hide. And, but the Israeli population and the Israeli people have this remarkable way of coping with this threat. We just don't talk about it. And I believe this is a mistake, because we should. All of the situation in the Middle East, and Leon Charney knows better than all of us how complicated it can be. We really don't need another round of this. And the situation in Gaza is complicated because we are dealing with the Hamas, and the Hamas doesn't recognize Israel, and he's calling for the destruction of the state of Israel on one hand. And then they are also a threat, a military threat, a security threat. Whenever they want, they can launch rockets towards Israel, and whenever they want, they can dig tunnels towards Israel. And this is really a threat for the state of Israel. And we should try and prevent their desire to do so the next time. This is exactly the problem, because the initiative is in their hands. And they can decide whenever they like, or whenever it suits them, or whenever it is their interest to do so. Because they have the weapons and they can do it. And the ways that we think in the Western world it's not exactly the ways they do. And I will give you an example. For example, last time we proposed a ceasefire. Many people were killed there. And we tried to prevent more killing and more dead people on their side, much more than on our side. And they refused. Nobody believed that they are going to refuse a ceasefire that was accepted by Israel. This is a combination of a national and a religious desire. The national desire is, of course, the state of a state for the Palestinians. But this is only secondary to the first desire, which is a big Muslim state all over the Middle East. In this sense, they are very similar to ISIS. They belong to the Muslim Brotherhood. They want the states in the area to act according to the Quran. And since this is a religious issue, it is very complicated to deal with it, because they do believe that God is on their side. ISIS is a different organization. However, their methods and the ways that they act, especially in the territory of Syria and Iraq, this is also their name because they want to establish a state in Syria and Iraq. And so their goal is almost the same. They want the Middle East, not only the Middle East, they want the whole world to be Muslim. And this is the thing that they are wishing, and this is the thing that they want to achieve, in the first of all in the Middle East and then in the whole world. They are saying it. The ISIS now is a threat not only to the region, but also to the whole world. And the President of the United States, which is worried about it, and no wonder that he formed a coalition to fight ISIS in Syria and in Iraq. And while we are speaking, they are bombing the headquarters and the fighters of ISIS in Syria and in Iraq, and trying to prevent their expansion in the area, because ISIS, they really act in ways that are suitable to the 6th century or maybe the 7th century. It's not suitable to our modern ages. They are executing people. They are shooting everybody that they don't like, that they are not believe in Muhammad. And even they shoot people that believe in Muhammad, but not the same version of Muhammad that they do. And this is a problem. First of all, not all of Gaza was destroyed. Many parts of Gaza were destroyed, especially on this Friday, when Hadar Goldin was kidnapped and shot. But many parts were destroyed, and many countries promised to reconstruct Gaza, to give money, and it didn't happen. It didn't happen because the Western countries, not only the Western countries, even Qatar, they don't want to give money unless they have assurance that in the next round Israel will not destroy everything again. It's like a game. They're giving money. The Hamas is building stuff, especially tunnels, and then Israel comes and destroys everything when they shoot missiles on Israel. So some kind of an arrangement should be done. I don't know if they don't trust the Hamas. They don't trust the situation in the Middle East. And the problem is, since the Hamas has the policies they have, which means to destroy Israel and not to recognize the existence of the state of Israel as a state, it's a very problematic situation. And the situation is much more problematic because after this last round, we have inspirations that maybe the Fatah, the Palestinian Authority, will get in and be in charge of the passes. And it didn't happen. The checkpoints on the borders. And it cannot happen because the dispute between the Fatah and the Hamas, I would say it's growing and growing and growing, and nobody can see some kind of a unity government again. They don't allow the Fatah people to go into Gaza. They don't allow Abu Mazen to say anything about Gaza. They are an independent entity. So the solution is not through the Fatah. But Israel should be very careful, and this is the most important thing. Israel should be very careful not to ignore the Palestinian Authority while trying to promote stuff in Gaza. Okay, now we are getting to the point where I think we have a chance to change something. And the change goes through economical steps. No way to negotiate. We cannot negotiate with the Hamas. We don't negotiate with them. But it is very important to try and to maintain, to improve the living of the people in Gaza. Because otherwise, the next round will be sooner than we think, and sooner than we hope. And we would like to postpone the next round as long as it can be. And the steps that we can take are economical steps. For example, we can ease the delivery of goods and people to Gaza. And as a matter of fact, while we are speaking, 700 trucks are passing every day the border to Gaza. Every day.
From Israel?
From Israel to Gaza. And it includes also materials that were prohibited. like cement, etc. And white cement was prohibited because it is also a material that helps them to build the tunnels. The problem is that you cannot build houses without cement. So they build the mechanism, the international community, together with the Hamas, together with the UN and UNRWA, a mechanism that every even pound of cement that goes in Gaza is owned by somebody, and they have to show how they use it. Like a builder, like a constructor. And to tell you that it is 100% proof that it doesn't go to the tunnels, I cannot do it. It's not true. But when we are talking about the situation of Gaza, it's not because Israel doesn't let things to go into Gaza. It's also, we have another partner here, which Leon Charney is very familiar with, and this is Egypt. Since Sisi took over in Egypt, and he replaced the Mohammed Morsi, the leader of the Muslim Brothers in Egypt, he is fighting Hamas. Hamas is his enemy. And the reason for Hamas to be his enemy is because of Sinai. Hamas supports and their allies in Sinai, which are the extreme Muslim movement. And they kill Egyptian soldiers. The good news is that although the diplomatic relations between Israel and the United States are not the way that they used to be, and the personal relationship between the White House and our Prime Minister are not very good, to say the least, the intelligence and the military connection between the two states are very good, especially the intelligence one. So what we know about Sinai, the Americans know. I believe that the Americans know, and I believe that what the Americans know through the CIA and other agencies, I believe that Israel knows too. And they really cooperate with Egypt, Israel, Egypt, and Americans, and other countries as well, to try to stop the extremes in Sinai. Because every week we hear about Egyptian soldiers being executed, and in Sinai, bombs going, they are bombing them, they are killing them, and Sisi is not very pleased with this, the leader of Egypt. And since you know, Leon, that Egypt is a major player in the area, we need to collaborate and to work with Egypt and to try to improve things in Gaza. Otherwise, and we cannot do it alone, by the way, otherwise the situation will deteriorate and we'll be facing another round of violence. There was an attempt more than a year ago when the Israeli-Palestinian negotiations stopped because of the creation of the unity government between the Hamas and Fatah. And they tried to do something, but it was not serious. The Hamas doesn't want the Fatah to be there, and the Fatah doesn't have enough power to try and to do something in Gaza. Because they would not let them. No way that they would. So we are talking basically about two Palestinian future states and one Israeli state and one Jewish state. And this is the dilemma with regard to Gaza, because you have to work with Gaza, we have to improve the economical situation with Gaza, but you cannot ignore the Palestinian Authority. You have to be very sensitive to what's going on in Jerusalem, in the West Bank especially. You have to keep in mind what happened in the last Shabbat here, that caused violence, a beginning of violence, it could easily deteriorate into a mini intifada. So you cannot do anything with the Hamas and to ignore totally the Fatah. And you cannot only talk to the Fatah and ignore the Hamas, because there are two different entities. Unfortunately, I cannot see right now how we can combine both entities and to make something, one unit of both parts of Palestine. I cannot see it. Many tried before. Egypt tried. Saudi Arabia tried. The Qataris tried. And somehow a lot of blood was there, bad blood, a lot of hatred, and they cannot communicate. This is a difference, ideological difference between the Hamas and the Palestinian Authority. I know that this is very popular to blame Israel for everything. However, Leon just mentioned ISIS. The situation in the Middle East is very complicated, because now ISIS in Syria, are we going to be blamed for ISIS as well? This is our responsibility? Because Israel is an address to everything bad that is happening in the area. Yes. Israel. And this is really something that I think the international community should think about. Although you have to understand that Israel, in the eyes of the international community, is responsible for Gaza. More than Egypt, by the way. Egypt could easily ease the siege of Gaza. They don't do it. And they don't open, unless it's like Ramadan, the Rafah crossing. They don't do it. So the only way out is through Israel. So the international community holds Israel responsible for what's going on in Gaza. Although we are not there, don't occupy there, but this is called like an outside occupation. So we are blamed for everything. Even, I hope that they will not blame us for, you know, the fact that the Fatah and the Hamas cannot create a unity government. Israel should take economical steps, because this is the only thing we can really do. We don't talk to the Hamas. We cannot promote right now diplomatic measures, but we can promote the economical measures. And we are talking about opening more passages, opening more opportunities to move goods and people from Israel to Gaza, from Gaza to Israel, and to the outside world. In Gaza, they have the capability to export agriculture goods like tomatoes, by the way, and also strawberries. They can do it, and they can earn money. And there are other plans that people from all over the world can invest in Gaza, because there are people there that have a desire to work and to earn money. And all of those things can be done. But and you asked me about the port. The port is one of the main issues. There are many solutions to this. First of all, to build the port in Gaza, and then maybe to give them a small part of the Ashdod port in Israel that will belong only to them. So we can inspect better what is coming into Gaza, because we want to prevent, as Leon said, the building of the tunnels. And ships will come from where they come, and they will unload them into trucks that will be inspected by Israeli and international forces, and then they will be escorted to the border of Gaza, and in the other direction as well. The Israeli official government is not willing to discuss even those issues. But while we are speaking, as I said, 700 trucks are coming into Gaza from Israel. Because we are not, maybe we don't like the Hamas, and for a good reason, but we are not stupid. There are people living there. We need to give them some kind of means how to survive. The Hamas is afraid of election in Gaza because maybe he will lose to the Fatah. The Fatah is afraid of doing election in the West Bank because maybe he will lose to the Hamas. And by the way, they both are not popular. Both are not popular because the people in Gaza, they were promised that everything will be fine after the killing and the shooting in the last war, and nothing is fine, nothing. And in the West Bank, many people there are disappointed from their leadership, vis-a-vis Israel, vis-a-vis the economical situation, vis-a-vis their position in the world, and they really don't trust their leadership. So it's like a disease in the Middle East. People don't trust their leaderships. Because you're talking about free elections? Okay. I don't think that the Hamas is in a position to allow free elections. So our concept of democratic elections is really not relevant now in Gaza. And it's also, unfortunately, not relevant in the West Bank. We are not talking about free elections. No reason for the Hamas. They can allow elections, but I think we know the outcome. But one thing I would like to point, because you are talking about politics. One of the rising powers in the Palestinian world is Mohammed Dahlan. Mohammed Dahlan is a star now, and he has inspiration. He used to be in the a general with the Palestinians, and he was expelled by Abu Mazen and by Jibril Rajoub. He was an enemy of Jibril Rajoub, and he lives in Qatar. He gets a lot of money, and he's very influential in Gaza and in the West Bank now. He's now a rising star. Everybody is afraid of him. I think the Hamas is not afraid of him, but there are a lot of concerns about him in the West Bank. He used to be Fatah, but now his only inspiration is to take over in the West Bank. But he has very good relationship with the Hamas. So maybe he could be some kind of a bridge. The Hamas now acts like a responsible power. And every time that a more extreme movement is raising their head and trying to replace them, they fight them. For example, last month, one extreme jihadist movement shot rockets to Israel. They were punished badly by the Hamas, because Hamas will decide when to shoot on Israel, not the more extreme movement. So when you deal in the Middle East, sometimes you prefer the enemy you know than the alternative. You don't want to deal with ISIS, because this is something that you don't know how to deal with. They don't act and they don't behave according to rational rules. ISIS was basically, the name of ISIS is an Islamic state in Syria and Iraq. This is the meaning of the initials. And they wanted, after the collapse of Iraq and after what's going on in Syria, they found there are extreme religious Sunni Muslims, very extreme. And they want to create a caliphate, which is some kind of a regime, a Muslim regime, like was in the days of Muhammad, that the laws will be the Quran laws. They want to go back 1,500 years back. They don't care about modernization. They hate the Western world. They hate Christians. They hate Jews. They hate everybody that is not Sunni, that belongs to exactly to their stream of Islam. And they are using the most advanced platforms of the Western world. They are champions of the internet. They hire people, they know how to deal with the Facebook, the Twitter, every social internet net, and they can recruit people, and they do, from all over the world. And the young people join them from all over the world. I cannot understand why. Maybe they are seeking for excitement. Maybe they are seeking for adventure. Maybe they think that we are talking about young people that lost their way. I really don't know. This is an issue that you should talk to social experts, religious experts, because this is a phenomenon that nobody can explain. But this is the interesting thing, and the interesting thing in your question, Leon, was that on one hand, they want to go back to the 6th century, the 7th century. And on the other hand, they are using methods of the 21st century to recruit their people and to fight. Because all the movies that you see of the executions, they are using all the media possible ways to frighten us and to influence us. This is interesting. We have this saying in Hebrew, אשרי המפחד תמיד. The one that is afraid, is prepared, he is going to win. And of course we have to be afraid. But afraid is not a policy. We have to be prepared. And the IDF is doing many things to be prepared to this danger. First of all, we try to prevent them from digging. And then, if in the case of a success in digging something into Israel, we have our measures to deal with it. Don't forget, please, that we were the one to invent the Iron Dome. Many people in Israel, many experts, many scientists are dealing with it right now. I think there is an estimation, and the IDF and our intelligence, we have more than an idea what's going on there. The problem is that once we were afraid of smuggling weapons through the tunnels from Egypt into Gaza, now the Egyptians stopped it. There is almost no smuggling. But this is not the problem now, because they can make it by themselves in Gaza, the rockets. And they do. They have the means to do it, they have the knowledge, and they are doing it. They are manufacturing rockets in Gaza itself. The economic situation in Gaza is in a state of collapse. There is no... somebody asked me, what do you mean it's in a state of collapse? It means that they really don't have an economy. Not to mention the problems that they cannot transfer money, for example. Their banks are not operating. There is no economy in Gaza. We are talking about almost 2 million people. So we cannot just give them Advil. We need to deal with it seriously, because it's going to be a danger not only for Israel. This is exactly the greenhouse for terror. People that don't have money, they don't have food, they are very young, they don't have work, and this is really the danger, because people that don't have work and they don't have money, they will choose the extremist path they can. ISIS. Saying that we cannot be optimistic is not enough. We can reduce the pessimism by trying to help the Gazian people and to allow the international community to do some kind of an economical move that will improve their everyday living. Because otherwise, we are facing another round, and this is the problem. And there is a dispute between the political leaders of Hamas and the military leader, which is Mohammed Deif. And unfortunately, after the last round, his power they couldn't reduce his power in Gaza. He's very popular in Gaza. And every move that the Hamas leaders are taking, they are considering his opinion. And he is very militant. I would say that if there will be a reason for the political leaders of Hamas to maintain the quiet situation, it will be only because they will have something to lose. And if the economical situation will improve significantly, they will have something to lose. And they will not start another round. Every move that Israel does vis-à-vis Gaza, it has to cooperate with the Egyptians, because Egypt is very important in this sense. The only border that the Gaza Strip has is with Israel and with Egypt. And Egypt is a major player here. So we need to talk to the Egyptians and to coordinate our moves towards Gaza. Although some of the economical steps could be done without the Egyptians. The Egyptians are very much concerned about what's going on in Gaza, and they suspect, and maybe they have proofs, that the Hamas is helping the jihadist movements in Sinai, which cause a lot of issues and a lot of troubles to the Egyptians, because they are killing Egyptian soldiers, they are bombing them, and this is a situation that is not acceptable by any country. So this is something that has to be solved. But it's very important to mention that we are not alone here. We have to work together with the Egyptians. The question that should be asked here with regard to Egypt is, do we have mutual interest? And we do. As I mentioned, in Sinai, but not only in Sinai. And now it's a good thing that the Americans are now renewing their relationship with Egypt. Secretary Kerry was here, and he was talking to the officials in Egypt, and they renew their relationship. Israella Oron, I'm a former Brigadier General in the IDF, and I was also the Deputy of the National Security Advisor, and I'm pleased to be here with you. You want to know about how things are between Tzipi Livni and Bougie Herzog, the candidate for the Prime Minister. And their decision to run together was one of the most exciting events in these elections, because it created a new atmosphere in the elections. Before that, Tzipi Livni and Bougie Herzog together had less than 20 seats in the parliament, and now we are talking about, we hope that we will be more than 30, and now the polls are talking about 24, 25. So this move really created a huge change in the politics of Israel. This is the agreement between them, that Bougie will be first the Prime Minister, and then Tzipi Livni will be the Prime Minister. And everybody knows about her political skills and about her relationship with foreign entities, foreign countries, and that she is highly appreciated by the government of the United States, many governments in Europe, and even, it was published, she was invited to a special dinner. No, I'm not sure it was dinner, but never mind. She was invited to this meeting of the foreign ministers of the Arab League in New York City. And this move created another friction between her and the Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. But she was the only Israeli to be invited to this meeting, and she is highly appreciated by them. I'm not sure. There are some people that argue that maybe she should be the Minister of Defense. I heard from many people that they think that Tzipi Livni is the perfect choice to be a Minister of Defense. By the way, I think that in order to be a Minister of Defense, it is not, you don't have to be a former general, and I'm talking as a former general. You just have to understand the environment. You have to understand the forces that are active in the area, and you have to have ideas, very good ideas, about how to end the military round, because at the end of every military round, there should be some kind of arrangement, agreement, that will allow us to live our lives. So it's a matter of other skills, I believe. You have to have the courage to choose, and the brains to choose between alternatives, and then the courage to create and to carry on with some moves that sometimes are not very popular. And all of those qualities, I think that Tzipi Livni has, and she can decide. She's very intelligent, and she knows what to do. Of course, it depends on the government that would be created after the elections. Whenever you invite another party to the government, it depends on the other positions that the other ministers will have, and the other parties will, and it should be decided during the negotiation after the elections. So maybe some parties will prefer some positions and other parties will prefer other positions. And as you know, in Israel, it's very complicated. The moment the elections are finished, it's only the beginning of the negotiation between the parties about the creation of the government. First of all, the answer to your question is not if Tzipi and Bougie Herzog will win the election, but when they will win the elections, because I cannot see any other alternative for the state of Israel. But of course, I stand where I sit, so my answer is obvious. It's going to be very complicated, because right now many of the parties are not very small, and the big parties are not big enough to create a coalition that will be very solid. The days of Mapai or the Likud, when it was run by Begin, it's over now, because we have parties like Shas, and we have parties like the Jewish House, and we have parties like Yesh Atid of Lapid, and they are the same numbers. So we are talking about 3 or 4 parties, and I didn't mention the other parties. And we have 4 parties that together are like half of the seats in the parliament. And it's very complicated to create a coalition, but I am sure that the more votes that our party will get, the more chances we have to create this coalition. When you are talking about right and left right now in Israel, we are talking about basically 2 issues. The first issue is the security issue, the political issue, and then there is, and I think in the same level, there is the social issue, the economical issue. They have a very large common ground between them, and they agree upon most of the tough issues, especially on what Israel should do with regard to the Palestinians, with regard to the area, with regard to our relationship with the United States. And I believe that they share the same view and the same vision for the state of Israel as a Jewish democratic state. I don't think there will be any friction in this regard. As for the other issues, the social and the economical issues, they manage. I didn't do anything about it. They managed to recruit to our party Professor Manuel Trachtenberg. And he came up with a very important plan how to improve the lives of the Israelis in Israel. And this was agreed by both of them. So this is the basis for their policy in the future, and I believe that as they will carry it out, it's very ambitious and it takes a lot of courage to carry out this policy, but they are committed to this. Professor Trachtenberg have the same ideas and the same views and the same plans almost the same, not exactly the same, that he had before after the social revolution in Israel, the social protest in Israel. And his views, basically most of his views were adopted by Tzipi Livni and Bougie Herzog. When he worked for the current former government, only a few of his ideas were adopted. And his approach, and Tzipi Livni's and Herzog's approach, has to be, this is an approach that if you miss some of its elements, you will not be able to do the revolutions that you are expected to do, because everything is connected and they are interconnected. One of the main issues that the Israelis are struggling with is the housing issue and the crisis in the housing issue. The prices in Israel are insane. An apartment in Tel Aviv costs more than an apartment in Manhattan. So many young people cannot afford to buy housing, but the prices of the houses are connected to the workplaces, are connected to the prices of the cost of living in Israel in general. So, and it is connected to the health issue, to the educational issue. So everything is interconnected. And if you don't deal at the same time with all the issues, you really cannot solve it. So, we believe that this is going to be one of the first targets of this government that will be created by Bougie Herzog and Tzipi Livni. In the last elections in Israel, I mean the last election in the last 20 years, maybe less, but maybe 15 years in Israel, and I must say in the United States as well, the elections are a personal issue. Because you choose your leader, and when you choose your leader, you choose him by his qualities, and you are trying to predict what will be his behavior when a military crisis, security crisis will be in Israel, or if he has the guts to lead Israel to some very courageous decisions with regard to the political issues, if he has enough political skills how to create a government and to keep it alive for more than 2 years, as it happened now in Israel. So the people everywhere, I think, in the democratic countries are really interested in the skills that the Prime Minister, the future Prime Minister, is bringing along. And I think that it is really valid to choose a Prime Minister by his personal qualities. And the thing is that his ideas, the ideas of the candidates are very important, but they are important. I think the degree of importance is equal to their personality. This is a great advantage to the party, to the Zionist camp, our party, because if you see the candidates, the people that are in the first 30 places, the candidates in our camp, as opposed to the other camp, it is almost incomparable, because our people are, we managed to have the best team. We have the team, and one thing that I'm personally very pleased with, that in the first 30 places in our party, there are 10 women. And in the 10 first places, there are 4 women that each of them is a very talented and woman and persons that could be a minister in any government. I'm talking about Tzipi Livni, of course, I'm talking about Sheli Yechimowicz, I'm talking about Stav Shafir, and I'm talking about Meirav Michaeli. All of those 4 women, everyone and each of them can be the best minister. Just name it. Stav Shafir, I believe that Stav Shafir can be the Minister of Finance. Although she is young, and sometimes people undermined other people because of their age, but she's young, she's ambitious, she's intelligent, and she made it very hard to the finance board in the parliament, and she forced them to expose all the monies that went to the wrong places. And I think she can be a very substantial, she can play a very substantial role in the next government. Just listen carefully to what she says, and you will understand that we are talking about a person that, first of all, is really dedicated, is not cynical. She is in politics for the right reasons, not because she wants to be famous or a celebrity, and she is working very hard. I think those are qualities to be admired, not to criticize her for them. She was one of the leaders of the social revolution that was in Israel. She is a leader, she is a true leader, and she can do it. And in our camp, in the Zionist camp, in our party, there are many young people that are dedicated to the state of Israel. And there are the proof that the young people in Israel didn't give up of the country. They are not seeking to live elsewhere. There were much talks here in Israel, how young people in Israel don't have any hope and they want to leave Israel to other places. The young people that are in the Zionist camp, in our party, are really the ultimate proof that this is something that is going to change.